Hello, my name is Allison, and I am an adult services librarian at the Hudson Library. And I want to thank you all so much for joining us for tonight's cooking demonstration. Before we get this program started, I want to remind you to keep checking our website for new virtual programs. We've also got a few in-person programs coming up this month and next month, so be sure to check those out. Remember that you can sign up for programs directly on our website at hudsonlibrary.org. For tonight's cooking demonstration, I am happy to introduce Chef Anthony Scolaro of 111 Bistro in Medina. Chef Anthony will demonstrate the process of vegetable blanching and preservation and how to make a few vegetable recipes. If you have any questions during the program, please send them in using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. Please note that we did not send out a recipe before this program, so if you didn't see it in your email, that was on purpose. So just take notes and ask questions as needed, and then at the end, I think we might have a recipe for you as well. So if Chef Anthony is ready, we will go ahead and get started.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And again, everybody, welcome tonight. I appreciate you joining us. Like Allison said, I wanted to kind of do something a little different tonight and focus more so on, just this time of year in summer and the ingredients themselves. So, for me as a chef, that is something that we do a lot here at 111 Bistro. We focus on, the individual ingredients and what we can do with them. And then also, I always like to try to do things and teach people different techniques, okay? Different things that you can utilize to create a new dish or to, try something that you haven't done before. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some sciencey things, some techniques, and some of the things that we do here and why we do them, and kind of share some of that knowledge with you guys. And maybe some of it you know already, and maybe you'll learn something. Hopefully you do. And then as we progress, I'll end up making a little bit of a dish just to kind of give you an example of some of the things that you can do. I want to start out talking about two different vegetables. One is zucchini, and the other one are eggplants. Both very similar in the way that they grow. Also, both very similar in the way that they retain water and their water content. So one of the dishes that we do at the restaurant is zucchini fritters, and we're actually getting ready to change our menu here next week. And those will be something that we're going to include on that new menu. So I want to talk about this and the eggplant because we're also going to have an eggplant dish on our menu. I wanted to talk about why it's important to focus on that water content part of zucchini and eggplant. So what we do with the zucchini is we're making a fritter, right? So zucchini has a lot of water. The key to making a golden brown delicious fritter is to get rid of as much water as you can. That is basically the antithesis of crispy golden brown delicious. Water creates steam, which then in turn does not let you get that end result. So when we make our fritters, we take a box grater just like this and we grate our zucchini. Now in our recipe as well, we're also going to be grating potato and onion. And this is actually the recipe that I'm going to share at the end of the program. And the reason I'm doing this first is to show you the process and how it takes some time and some patience to kind of get that water content out that we want to get out. All right, so that's one. So we're going to take some coarse granulated kosher salt. We're going to sprinkle in maybe a half a teaspoon into that one zucchini, and we're going to mix that up. So now what the salt is going to do, it's going to break down the cell walls, and it's going to allow that water to release. Let me get this out of the way. And then a little trick that we do with our eggplant, I have a sheet tray here with a grate on it to kind of show you how this is going to work. So what we're going to do, our dish that we're going to be coming up with is an eggplant parmesan. Again, something that we're going to bread and try to get crispy on the outside. If you've ever made eggplant parmesan before and you've breaded it and your breading gets gummy if it sits for 10, 15 minutes, or you notice that your breading doesn't stick very well, that is because eggplant holds a lot of water. And when the water releases, it's going to let the flour that you breaded in is going to get gummy, the egg, and then that all kind of washes away, and you lose the ability to get that nice crispy breading on the outside. There's some different trains of thought on whether or not to peel, and the application that we do this in, because I tend to like to have some structure. The skin actually helps provide some structure, because what we do are big, and you can kind of see this is probably about 1.5 inches at least thick. Okay, so in the way that we're presenting this, it's the center of the plate. So it's going to be the steak, or it's going to be the protein of the dish. So we want to have a nice platform for our dish to stand on. So now what I'm going to do, once I have my rounds ready that I want to bread, I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to score a crosshatch pattern, basically crisscross. So I'm going to go vertical and then horizontal like that, and just maybe 1/4 inch in on both sides. You don't have to go too far, but what we're going to do, same thing, same concept with the zucchini. Now we're going to take some salt and we're going to rub that in so it kind of gets into those grooves a little bit too. Now, if you're worried about this becoming salty, it's not going to happen, because what's going to happen is the salt itself is going to dissolve and you'll be able to get that off before it becomes something that is going to ruin the taste of your dish. So I wanted to do this process with you first, because it does take some time for the water to kind of come out on its own. So hopefully by the end, I can kind of show you how much we're talking about. All right. All right, so we have our eggplant. It's all salted. I have it on the tray. So when this starts to let out its water, hopefully by the end of the program, I can kind of show you, how much is there. All right. So the next one I want to talk about is cucumbers. It's kind of in the same vein, as zucchini and some of these other summer vegetables, where sometimes maybe you get stuck in a rut, like how much can you do with cucumbers? Well, if you have the right tools, one of the cool things that I like to do is utilize what we call, this is a mandolin. It's a tool that we utilize that we can get even cuts, uniform cuts. It'll slice. In this particular case, this has a little knob that we are going to use, and it has a julienne feature. Now you can do this with a knife, but it's very difficult, only because we're going to make noodles, cucumber noodles, out of this cucumber. It's a cool substitution for, like a cold salad, something that you want to use as a garnish on a dish. If you're at home and you're grilling a piece of fish, and you have a cucumber sitting around, this is something that you can do quick, something that you can do easily, and it's just something that texturally will add to the dish as well. And it's just not your normal sliced cucumbers or salsa or cucumber yogurt, or there's a million things that I feel like this is something that's different, that you could utilize in a whole bunch of different ways. I like to take kind of the Asian route with this. So we have an Asian vinaigrette that we make that I'm going to end up garnishing. I'm going to dress this cucumber with. So the idea is you can do this. This is just a normal everyday cucumber. You can do this with English cucumbers. Those tend to be a little bit longer, so you get kind of like that longer noodle. And when we get into plating and things like that, it gives us a little bit more versatility with how we can nest the noodles on the plate and create height and just all these things that we consider when we're putting a dish together. So again, this is a very sharp tool, so it is a little bit dangerous. So you just want to be able to take your time. You don't need to go too fast, and we're going to just let the machine do its work. So this is obviously a cucumber that has seeds. So what basically I'm going to do is go on 4 sides until I get to the seed, and then I'm going to stop. Okay, so now you can see, kind of gotten down. Hopefully you can see, sorry. So our product now are these cool, long cucumber noodles. So I'm just going to take these and toss them in a bowl. And then throw our dressing on. And the vinegar in this dressing and the acid is really what's going to help create kind of like a nice texture with this noodle. It'll have a bite to it, but it'll still be flexible and have that kind of al dente type feature that normal noodles would have. So then what we can do, put this plate so you can hopefully, I'll come up and show you. And we can kind of twist it like we would a spaghetti. And get that on our plate. And then if I can get that a little closer so you can see, but now you have a nice base. So something different. You can do it cold. You can flash it in a pan if you wanted to make it warm. But this is something that is a simple base for so many different things that I just think is something that if you have a mandolin at home that you could utilize, that would be something different. If you're having somebody over for dinner and you want to, impress, do something cool. It's an easy way to do something different. So that was one thing I kind of wanted to show you with the cucumber elements. The next thing that kind of brings me into is, okay, so now I have this, and I feel like that's a common thing with very many of the summer vegetables that we work with. Okay, so we only want to use maybe the pretty parts or the things that the part of the vegetable that is the most ripe. Or we have scrap pieces like this cucumber. Okay, so another thing that we like to do and that we try to focus on is utilizing that whole vegetable, not letting anything go to waste. So things like that we can do with this cucumber now. Heck, you can slice this up and put it in water and have cucumber water. We make a dish. It's a bouli dish, which is a Mediterranean dish. It's made with bulgur, but now it also has small diced cucumbers and tomatoes and onion. So now, if I wanted to, I could turn this into a cold pasta salad. This can be diced. This can be sliced. It's not bad. It doesn't go to waste. There's some seed in the middle, yeah, but there's still plenty of usable vegetable. Same with our eggplant. So when I'm doing this for the restaurant, obviously I want the bigger middle pieces of the eggplant. Well, I can still utilize the rest of this eggplant. And this is kind of what I was going to show at the end. I'll put this together. We're going to keep some of this waste. I'm going to show you how you can kind of turn that into a nice summer pasta. So again, when we're talking about waste, peppers. I mean, if you grow a garden, I'm assuming most of you would have peppers that you grow. Um, One of the nice things about these is, again, it's such a versatile ingredient. So when we clean peppers, I cut the tops off and the bottom off. And then you can see down the center that it has, that rib cage in there. So we cut one down in between the ribs, and then we're basically just going to roll our knife across the pepper and take out the center. So now what we have is a completely usable vegetable. Now we have our pretty parts, the center, which again we can julienne, we can throw that in the pasta, but then the tops and the bottoms. This is what I think a lot of times gets wasted or gets thrown away. I used to work for a chef that when I was young, that I was cleaning a whole case of red and green peppers, and I was cutting the tops and the bottoms off and putting them right in the garbage can next to me. And my chef came over and gave me an earful. This is money. This is something that, in my case, obviously, that we try to make a profit on. But in your case, it's vegetables that you grew or that you bought at a farmer's market that are beautiful. That why would we want this to go to waste? So again, I'm going to utilize it in another capacity and just chop that up, and we're going to put that as scrap with our eggplant. And then I still have the ability to use the fresh pieces of pepper. And it's no different than the green. And why not do both? Because in summer at least, I enjoy all the color. So you have your purple and your red and your green. We're going to throw that on the side there. So the next thing I kind of wanted to touch on is corn. And again, the process of the waste factor with corn. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about, one of my favorite ways to cook corn, and I always buy it and I always keep the husk on because I like to soak it. And what I mean by that is I'll take a pot of water, I soak it overnight, and then what I can do is a lot of times in the summer you like to grill. So when we take this and we soak it, we can take the whole ear of corn and throw it on the grill off to the side with whatever else you're working on. Or if you're just doing the corn, you can put this on the grill, close the lid, turn it. Because it's wet, what's going to happen is you're going to be able to cook your corn inside the husk and it'll steam. It's hard to demonstrate that because I don't have a grill, but I wanted to kind of touch on that. It's a technique that I use a lot at home. It's a technique that we use when we want to get that kind of that flavor imparted from the grill, but not burn the corn. It's a great way to kind of preserve that. So when we do husk the corn, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and another thing that we're going to be utilizing here at the restaurant as we change menus going into summer. So it's kind of like perfect timing to talk about some of the things that we do and why we do that. When we take our corn and we cut it off the cob, we try to get as close as we can. And once we get all the corn off, the first thing that most people do is put this in the trash. Okay? There is so much still that this cob has to offer. One of the things that we do, so we get in cases of corn and we clean them down. I have a bunch of these. So if you think about chicken bones, veal bones, this is something that we actually use and we make stock out of. So we'll take all of these, these extra cobs, some mirepoix, and we're going to let this cook like we would a stock. and we have this rich, there's still starch in here too, right? So there's going to be some body. You're going to have this rich, flavorful stock that then you could use to throw into pasta, that you could use to make a soup. You basically can utilize it any way that you would chicken stock, and it would impart that pure corn flavor, which is just some of the best stuff that summer has. So this is one thing I wanted to kind of touch on, that, and for stock, basically, if I had 6 years of corn, you can still make at least a quart of stock, if not more. You basically just want to put this into a nice pot that has big enough that can hold it. Some carrots, some celery, some onion, and cover it, and just cover it maybe by an inch of water. Okay, and let that cook for 30, maybe 40 minutes, and you're really going to get a nice, rich, flavorful broth that you can use. Another thing that some chefs like to do is what we call the corn milking corn. So if I take the back of my knife and I put this over a strainer or something to catch it, and I get I'm just scraping basically with the back of my knife. You're getting all this residual corn to come off the cob. Now, if you've ever made cream corn before, that's pretty much the start of it right there. You don't need to do a lot. Cream corn, inherently of itself, it thickens because of the starch in the corn. This right here is already released starch in the corn that then you can add it to fresh kernels that we already have and make an amazing cream corn. I actually have a recipe for that I can share as well.
I've got a couple questions here for you if you'll take them.
Yeah, we can take some questions. That's fine.
Okay, we just have a couple. So whenever you were talking about cooking the corn inside the husk on the grill, how many minutes, or how do you know when that's done?
Yeah. The easiest way is when that husk starts to dry out a little bit and starts to get some char on you. You want to go in and just give it a check. It's corn. So if you think about if you were to put it in a pot of boiling water, 5-6 minutes it takes maybe to blanch. It's not going to take maybe but a little bit longer on the grill, maybe 8 minutes, because basically you're doing the same concept where you're steaming inside the husk. So it should cook through within 8 to 10 minutes.
They're awesome. And then I know you mentioned that the dressing you put on the cucumber was a dressing that you make at the restaurant. Do you have a recommendation for an Asian dressing to buy, or how to make that at home?
Yeah, so any kind of soy gingery type of dressings. I'm sure there's like a soy ginger glaze out there, or like something that's soy based that has some ginger in it, sesame. You can make a simple one at home with pickled ginger and soy sauce. This one has it actually has a lot of ginger in it, fresh ginger. It's an easy one. I can probably this one that we make has a lot of ingredients in it. I can share it, but there's a lot of store-bought ones out there that are in that vein that you can buy that would be very simple to use.
Okay, awesome. That's all the questions for now. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Let's see. All right, so we're going to do a check-in. I'm going to actually move up here because I don't know if anybody can really see it or not. So, so this is our zucchini that we graded. So after, I don't know how long I've been talking, but just after a few minutes, that's just me squeezing it, okay? That's how much water we get out of it just from me squeezing it. So something that I'm going to show you that we do to make sure that we get it as dry as we can. You can buy some of these, so we use towels basically, or like a linen napkin works really well. So the thought process here, you could use cheesecloth too if you buy cheesecloth at the store. We're gonna put this in the center of the towel. We're gonna wrap it up, and then basically we're just gonna be able to use some pressure and some torque. And I don't, so you can see I'm getting a lot of water out of here right now. It's an arduous process and it takes more time, but your end result is going to be way better. So now I can kind of show you up close how dry we were able to get the zucchini. And that's just with a little bit of salt and then really pressing that juice. Now, if you're not comfortable with the towel method, the other thing that you can do is utilize a fine mesh sieve strainer, and you could put that over a pot or a pan to catch the juices, and then you can press that very firmly. Press as much out as you can, and then that sieve will help kind of catch the zucchini. It won't let anything through but the water, and then you're left with just that nice bulk dry zucchini, which is going to be the perfect base for the zucchini fritters that I was going to share. So that worked out really well. Our eggplant is starting to go a little bit. You can kind of see, my lighting is not the best, so sorry, but you can see how it's starting to bubble up there. See that? And we're starting to get some juices piling. And that's just from sitting. Now we do this with our eggplant, we do it overnight. It's just something that we let it go until it kind of does its own thing overnight. By that time it's done and ready to go. All right. The one thing I didn't really focus on too much was tomatoes. It's a little bit early in the season for that. But one of the things that I really love are these small cherry heirloom tomatoes. Bunch of different colors and varieties. Again, it's one of those versatile things. I like them because for the most part, there's no waste. You eat the whole thing. A lot of times when you're working with the big tomatoes, the beefsteaks, the Better Boy, all the different varieties that you have, and those bigger giant tomatoes, sometimes they get really woody in the stem. You're losing part of that. You're taking the top off. You're taking the bottom off where the root end is, and you lose some stuff. These basically you can eat them like candy, but then they also cook really well in different applications. So we're actually just going to take some of these, and the nice thing about when they cook, the juice comes out and it kind of helps create a sauce, and that's the base for what this dish that we're going to do here real quick with some pasta. So I'm just quartering these basically. It's a perfect mouth bite, perfect fork bite. These are the ones that I like to do instead of doing a traditional caprese salad. I love to do the skewers, where it's just one bite. You get the little cilantini mozzarella with basil. You throw a little balsamic and olive oil over top with some nice sea salt. And it's a really great way to do a caprese salad as like an appetizer, but not have to slice everything. And you basically can just throw it on a skewer, and they're great to walk around with if you're entertaining. So that's just another application. All right, so what we're going to do, I have some really nice olive oil that I already started in the pan, maybe a couple tablespoons worth. I might throw a little bit more in there. And then all we're going to do is we're going to take our scrap, our waste, if you will, and we're going to start to saute this. So peppers, corn, eggplant, tomato, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. This is the beauty of cooking, and the beauty of cooking with vegetables in the summer is there's no rules. I think that's one of my favorite parts about vegetable cookery is it can be very a la minute and it can be very on a whim, but it's all about the vegetables. The pasta that we're going to use, this is a spinach fettuccine. So it's got that kind of green hue to it. Just something different, a little bit more of a fortified pasta. And then this is a pink Himalayan salt. Okay, very coarse brown, higher mineral content, a lot more minerality in this salt. So we're going to put some of that in. Again, the salt is also going to help break down our vegetables a little bit so that it helps create its own sauce. And then this is just some garlic. You ever meet me in person, I am a garlic freak. I have a tattoo on my leg. I love it so much. So that's a whole nother topic for another video. So we're just going to cook this down. And then we're going to add herbs. So herbs are one of those other things that in gardening in the summer that are just everywhere. Parsley, I'm going to use what we consider to be the fiend herb family. So those finer herbs. So there's green onion, there's chives, there's parsley. Cilantro falls into that. Tarragon, chervil. All of those really like delicate leafy herbs. That's what I like to focus on in the summer. Your hardier herbs, thyme, rosemary, sage, those are like crazy, but for me, those are more fall, more hardy, something that stands up better to stews, to braised dishes. Whereas quick applications like this, you're not going to lose flavor here, okay? If anything, those fresh herbs are going to really bring out the flavor in this. I had a little too much pasta. So. All right. So I don't really need to do much to this. So I got a nice bit of olive oil. Okay. The vegetables are starting to cook down and create their own sauce. Okay. And we're just going to let that pasta heat up now. Do a touch more olive oil. All right, so one thing that you can do to kind of create a sauce, if you will, is to finish with fresh butter. You don't need a ton. So this is just whole butter. We're going to throw in about a tablespoon. Kill the heat, and we're going to let that butter basically melt. And what it's going to do is going to emulsify in the pan and create a nice little butter sauce. And we don't have to do anything else. Butter is going to help bring out the richness. It's going to help bring out some of the flavors in those vegetables. The mouth coating that butter provides with fat to help transport those flavors. So again, this is just something that we made with the stuff that we were gonna get rid of. So that took all of probably, I don't know, 6-7 minutes. And you have a nice, easy weeknight dinner. You can prep zucchini fritters one day, save your scrap, do your eggplant parmesan, save your skin. You have another meal already built in with the residual scrap that you have. So again, when you're prepping your vegetables, when you're getting ready to make a dish, and you think you have something that you're not going to use and you're going to throw it out, think a day or two ahead. Think about how can I utilize the rest of this, because you either took the time to grow it, you took the time to procure it and buy it, and that's what it's there for. It's there to provide nutrients and food for you. So to just throw it away, that would be, doesn't make sense. So at least in my head, that's how I'm wired. That's how my brain works. Maybe not everybody's in the same boat, but that's something that I always try to think about, especially right now. I didn't touch on pickling and preserving too much, because that's a whole kind of science in and of itself. Anything on this table you can pickle. Anything that you see that I've used today can be pickled. Vegetables can be pickled. One of the easy things that I like to do is use ratios. So we have a base pickling ratio. Okay, it's 4 parts vinegar to 1 part water to 1 part sugar. Now you can take that base. You can use any vinegar you want. You can use white sugar or brown sugar, depending on what you wanted to create flavor wise. And in that vein, that pickling, whatever you want to create, you can add different flavor profiles. So if you want to do something with the cucumbers, obviously dill, but then maybe you want to throw in some mustard seed or coriander seed, or some different kind of peppercorns to add some kick to it. That's the great thing about pickling as well, especially when you're working with different vegetables that maybe can take on different flavors. Utilizing a base kind of ratio for pickling, and then adding different things and different flavors to that pickling liquid. So when we put everything, we take our vinegar and our sugar and our water, bring in the pot. If we're doing dry spices, all that stuff goes in, and we're going to bring it to a boil. And then if we had a quart of corn that we wanted to pickle, if you never pickled corn, I think you should maybe do that this weekend, because it's fantastic. It's such a versatile thing that you could use in salsas, as just a garnish, as just a snack, because it's that good. But bring that to a boil, and then you want to pour that hot pickling liquid over your vegetables, and then get that into the refrigerator or cool it down. So what it's going to do is we call a hot pickling method, where the hot liquid blanches the vegetable in a way, but then now it's ready to stay in the fridge, and it's going to be preserved by that vinegar liquid. So it's such a wide variety that I really more or less wanted to talk about the concept of it, because it's kind of a blank slate. And if you haven't got that from the presentation of what I was trying to get across today, is this is such a versatile time of year as far as ingredients go, and there's so much. Sometimes it can be overwhelming, and focusing on the simplicity of these ingredients, I think, is really what I wanted to kind of drive home, and hopefully, that makes sense to a lot of you. Hopefully, you got some good notes out of this. I would love to answer any questions. I know I didn't necessarily give out a recipe or make a full dish. I talked about a lot of different things. So if there are any questions, I would love to answer any questions, or just have a conversation about anything that we talked about today, or if there's something I didn't touch on that you want to know about too. So I'll throw that out there, and
yes,
we'll see what we got.
We do have quite a few questions for you here.
Okay.
So The first question is, when you let the eggplant drain overnight, do you refrigerate it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to refrigerate it. The other thing too that the salt does help with is eggplant is one of those vegetables that oxidizes. Okay, and it oxidizes very quick. Same thing like an apple. Okay, it's not an antioxidant rich vegetable. So keeping it in the fridge is going to help with that as well. The salt is a big part of why we do that as well. So that salt actually helps keep it from oxidizing. So when you do put it in the fridge, you do want to cover it as well, just to kind of help. Anything you can do to help keep it from oxidizing, the better. Now, in this case, we're going to bread it. So, the aesthetics of it are not necessarily as important. But we also don't want it to start to turn on us and become mush either. So, I definitely want to put it in the fridge, cover it, and just try to keep as much air off of it as you can.
Okay, awesome. Then we have a couple questions about the pasta that you added to the vegetables. Was that cooked like al dente before you added it?
Yeah, correct. So that's something that in the restaurant business that we do a lot. So we par cook the noodles ahead of time. So in that case, now that dish, as you saw, maybe took 5 or 6 minutes to actually put together. So that's something that I talk a lot about. I've done some different talks with Cleveland Clinic and Suma about the importance of meal planning when we're talking about lifestyle changes and things like that. That's a different. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you can plan ahead and on Tuesday I'm going to make this pasta, well, cook your pasta off ahead of time when you have time. Keep it in the refrigerator. You can throw it in a Ziploc. You can throw it in a container. And that part's done. So now all you have to do is finish the dish. So when we pre-cook our pasta, we're going to cook it basically to the al dente, and then it'll heat up and it'll finish cooking in the pan. So that's one kind of trick that we use to help keep the time it takes us to make a dish a lot less, which in the same breath you can do at home, and really plan ahead and actually, even if you didn't plan ahead, 7-8 minutes to cook your pasta, it's not horrible. So, but yeah, we do cook ahead our pasta like that.
Awesome. And then someone wants to know the olive oil that you added to that dish. Was it extra virgin olive oil or what type?
Yeah, extra virgin olive oil. Olive oil's to me it's an oil that's meant to be finished with and tasted. Okay. I think there's a misconception a lot of times with cooking with oil. Okay, that yes, olive oil is healthier. It has different benefits, but it also has flavor. And a lot of times when it's utilized in a cooking method, let's say in a saute pan, the heat is too much. Okay, the smoke point of olive oil is way below that of like a canola oil or sunflower oil. So when we're cooking, in this application, I used it because I wasn't really getting it too hot to where I was going to burn the oil or I was going to cook off any flavors that it had. Olive oil should be used in a capacity where it's going to add flavor to a dish, not necessarily as a vehicle to cook in. Okay. There's different trains of thought on that. That's just, in my opinion, that's, olive oil is not cheap. Okay. If you're going to take it and throw it in a pan and cook the crap out of it, or use it on the grill. If you've ever used olive oil on the grill and you wonder why everything is so smoked and charred, and it's because you shouldn't be using olive oil on the grill, because it just burns. And then you're basically just taking the money and the olive oil you bought and putting it into the garbage. So olive oil is one of those things that we utilize to add flavor because it has that inherent grassiness, that richness to it that you want to highlight in a dish and then elevate it. That's the whole point of olive oil and using it in that manner. So, yeah, that's a good question. It's a topic that I think a lot of people don't maybe necessarily think about and realize. So, it's a good point.
Yeah, that's great information. Okay, the next questions have to do with pickling. So could you repeat the ingredient ratio as well as talk about the type of vinegar that you use?
Yeah. So the ratio again is 4 parts vinegar to 1 part water to 1 part sugar. So if you were to measure that out, let's say you did 4 cups of vinegar to 1 cup of water to 1 cup of sugar. Um, the different vinegars, I mean, the base ones that most people would use for pickling or that we tend to use. So white distilled vinegar is probably your most basic. Apple cider and red wine vinegar, probably the next one's up. We like to use in certain applications, which would be kind of, something different with more delicate vegetables, would be like champagne vinegar and sherry vinegar. A little more costly if you're really trying to pickle a lot of stuff. So maybe in smaller applications, those vinegars would be better. But yeah, I mean, there's so many different kinds of infused vinegars out there now too. You got you have raspberry vinegar, peach vinegar, all these different kinds of flavored vinegars. You can utilize those, but those I would say no, just they're more or less for, again, same kind of concept of olive oil, like more or less for finishing. You want to taste those flavors. So I would start with white cider vinegar, red wine vinegar, in that wheelhouse for bigger pickling projects.
Perfect. The next question is, do you grow the vegetables that you use in your restaurant?
I wish I did. We partner and we work with a lot of different growers in the area. Since we're in Medina, we're kind of surrounded by farms here. So we have the added benefit of having a really nice farmers market here, and being able to utilize that. And over the years, the purveyors that we use have become very adamant and focused on working with farmers to be able to get those vegetables to us. And because the hardest part is procuring them and going to a farm and or finding someone to grow you this or grow you that. Well, now the people that we buy food from on a normal basis have been able to partner, and the logistical part has gotten smaller, which has been great. So the produce company that we buy from, starting a couple months ago, when asparagus comes into season, we're buying local asparagus. They go to farmers auctions and they'll buy, it could come from a different farm every week. But the cool thing is that we're using local stuff, and it's coming to us from farms in the area. So we're kind of in a plaza here, so there's not much real estate for us to grow on. Otherwise, I would. But usually, if I have anything left over at home, I'll bring it in and we'll utilize it here too. But that's kind of the state of affairs now with the industry, is the focus on what's being grown around us, and that's been a really, really nice added benefit for chefs like myself, who are also owners, that time is a very valuable thing for us. So driving around all week trying to find vegetables at different farms is not necessarily something I'm able to do. So being able to have that kind of community and have it brought to us has been kind of life changing. So
that's really great to hear that that's the direction things are moving, is focusing on the local produce when they can.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question says, you mentioned your love of garlic. Do you have specific varieties that you look for and use?
Oh man. Oh, there's like hundreds of them. I tend to gravitate towards the spicier ones. I like that fresh heat. If you're into garlic, if you didn't know, Cleveland has an annual garlic festival, obviously with the last, year and a half or whatever, that We didn't have one last year, and I have not heard if one way or another if they're going to do it this year or not. But it's a Cleveland Garlic Festival. It usually happens in August every year, and if you've never seen or tried different varieties of garlic, that is an awesome place to go to do it, because there's ones that I never even heard of that you can try. They have garlic ice cream, garlic everything basically, but they also have every day they have a chef competition, which is kind of fun, and you focus on utilizing garlic in a chicken dish or a beef dish. And each day there's a different competition. And there's 3 chefs that compete. They create a dish, and you can sample those dishes. And then they're judges, and it's like a kind of celebrity judge thing. And then someone gets voted the winner. But it's just a cool way. You can try 3 different dishes from 3 different area chefs each day, and learn about garlic. So if you're really into it, I would check that out. It's something very cool to do over the summer.
That's very cool. I hope that they have that this year. We'll have to be on the lookout.
I have to defend my title.
Well, you must have the title if you have garlic tattooed on your legs. Okay, so someone just mentioned, can you mention one of the best things to do with garlic scraps besides pesto?
Garlic scraps?
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly throwing them in. What I would do with them is basically, if you do have an abundance of that, if you have a food processor at home, or you have there's little handheld garlic presses, I guess is what you would call them, but where you put the clove in and you press it in it. It kind of like macerates the clove for you. Or you can kind of take your knife and you can kind of just smash it yourself. But I would take those extra pieces and then buy little plastic containers, or something that you can freeze it in. And then when you're at home and you're in a pinch and you want fresh garlic and not that vinegar chopped garlic from the store, you can take out a little puck of what you preserved and pop it into a dish. That's what I would do with it. I would chop it up and freeze it, because garlic freezes just fine. Freezes really well. And put it in maybe teaspoon portions or tablespoon portions, and you can take one out of the fridge anytime you want and pop it in a dish, and you have fresh garlic all the time.
Everyone is correcting me here. I said scraps. Apparently they meant scapes, the green top.
Yeah, scapes. Okay, that's different too. So honestly, I'm going to be having a special this weekend. One of my servers actually grows garlic. She brought me in a bag of these beautiful scapes. So we're going to blanch those, and then we're going to use those in basically a pasta dish for the weekend. We're going to chop them up. They'll get sauteed, and then we'll use those in a pasta dish. Another thing you can do with scapes is pickle them. They're awesome when they're pickled. And then when you take them out of the pickling liquid, you can dice them up and just kind of put them over a salad, or if you wanted to. Again, you can chop them up and freeze them, no different than garlic. But they do, depending on how far down you go with them or how far you cut them, they get a little woody. So you just want to be careful how much of it you're going to use. But I would say pickle them if you've never done that before, because it's such a great ingredient then, so you can utilize in a whole bunch of different ways. You can put it in a salad. You could put it in pasta too if you wanted to pickled. It would add a whole nother flavor profile to a dish. But those would be just a couple. Hopefully I answered that question.
Yes, perfect. So I think we'll take one more question here because we're getting close to 8 o'clock. So this question says, can you freeze the odds and ends of vegetables and then unfreeze before using, or do they need to be cooked before freezing? Thank you.
No, yeah, you can freeze them right from the state that they're in. The one thing I would tell you to do, I mean, if you think about it, what frozen vegetables you buy at the store, they're not cooked. Freezing vegetables actually changes the molecular structure of the vegetable, okay? To the point where when it does thaw, you necessarily don't even need to cook it. Because the freezing is going to change the cellular structure. Same thing that we kind of talked about, like with the salt. When that then thaws, now you've expanded those cells and now contracted those cells. So if you've ever thawed a bag of frozen vegetables and you notice that there's a lot of water that comes out of there, it's the same kind of concept. So what I would do in that situation, if you have like a cookie tray, and let's say I wanted to freeze what I had here on my board, okay? If you have the space, the best way to do that is to take your vegetables that are cut and lay them out in as flat of a layer as you can, almost so that there's like individual pieces. And then you want to freeze it like that. And after it's frozen, then take it out and bag it up. Because if you take that and those vegetables and you bag it up all together and then try to freeze it, it's going to be a mess. It's not going to be pretty when you thaw it out. So this is what we call an IQF method, or individually quick frozen, to where those vegetables then freeze. They'll freeze really quick. You could probably throw it in there for 10, 15 minutes and get it to the point where, a kernel of corn is going to be pretty close to frozen. And then you can take that and bag it up. And if you want to keep each vegetable separate, you can do that too. But you can throw it on the sheet tray and throw it in the freezer and keep it in one single layer. So then that way your vegetables aren't freezing together and bruising themselves and all that jazz. So that would be the one tip I would tell you if you are going to freeze that stuff.
That's a great tip. Also, I wanted to mention thank you to Elizabeth. She just shared the link to the 2021 Cleveland Garlic Festival tickets. And so I just went ahead and sent that in the chat for everyone if you want to check that out. And maybe you will see the chef there this year.
Yeah, they're going to have it. So yeah, usually it's a Friday. I think it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday that they have the competitions. And each day is a different, they'll do a beef, they'll do a chicken, they do a pork, and then they do a vegetable one. So all said and done, there's usually about 12 different chefs over those couple of days that go and make dishes. So
very cool. Okay, well, before we wrap up here, do you want to take a second to talk about your restaurant and how people can come visit?
Yeah, sure. If you've never heard of us before, 111 Bistro. We're located in Medina, right off of Route 71 and 18. We're actually east of 71, so opposite way of going towards the square in Medina. We're right across from the Medina Antique Mall, if you're familiar with that area. We've been here. We actually just turned 7 last week, so we've been here for 7 years, and we're open currently Tuesday through Saturday, 4 to 9 or 10, 10 on the weekends. And we just do dinner. But like I said, we change our menu basically every 2 months now because it's a little bit more abbreviated than what we used to have. So we've definitely gotten into the focusing on ingredients again, and really being able to change our menu frequently is something that as a chef that I've always tried to be able to do, and we're actually able to do that now, which is very cool. So you can check out our website. It's 111bistro.com. Obviously we have our Facebook and Instagram and all that jazz too. But yeah, that's like I said, Tuesday through Saturday. We do take reservations. You can make those on our website. I think I got everything in there.
Awesome.
But yeah, well, thank you again. This was fun, and hopefully everybody got something out of it, and hopefully I didn't bore you too much. So
No,
But it's always a pleasure to do it. So thank you.
this was awesome. Thank you so much. We have many great comments. I wish you could see in the chat and in the Q&A here of thank yous and how much people have been enjoying this. So many great tips that are applicable at home. So that's really awesome for all those takeaways.
Awesome.
So again, I think Chef has a few recipes that we'll probably send out by email. Be on the lookout for those. And again, thank you to everyone who attended and participated. And thank you, Chef Anthony.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night. Bye-bye.